So I figured this would be kind of fun. I didn't do a traditional time lapse. What I did was I took a very long video, about an hour, for this first layer of the underpainting, and I've just compressed it and spread it up. So with a time lapse you tend to miss, it takes a few short video clips or photos. This has everything, so it's more dynamic, I think. I'm not going to zoom in because, well, there's an aspect to this that I kind of want to be a surprise, and you'll see it towards the end. But for right now, I think I'm just going to point out that I'm focusing on the tonal background. That's where most people start paintings, is background framing. Traditionally, paintings were done as underpaintings first, and then about 120 years ago, roughly, they stopped doing that as often. And that could be because of the light-fast quality of the pigment, or that people didn't feel it was necessary, or they didn't understand it. But basically, if you've seen a really old painting where the colors have faded but the painting is still there, it is because the underpainting is still intact. So here I am working on some clouds in the upper right area. I love dynamic clouds. I feel that one of the things that we have out here in the Northeast is some pretty amazing and dynamic clouds, but they pop up like a surprise because of the density of our woodlands. So you don't have big sky country like you do out in the open areas of the country. You have very small areas where rain clouds or clouds in general just pop up. So I really do enjoy them. I take videos and photos of clouds. I get a lot of those. Good to have references, that, and I just enjoy them. I don't know the differences really, though. I'm trying to learn, but it's an uphill battle. So we're building a cloud in the right hand area. If you think of a tonal scale for underpainting, I think it's important to point out that usually, let's say we had a scale 0 through 6. I don't think any color here is lighter than maybe just around 2. I don't think anything's actually darker than maybe around 4.5, 5. Especially in the background. If you're starting to get into painting or art, things in the distance usually gray out. They're more mid-toned. You very rarely see anything at a distance that is either black or white, with the exception of, I believe, light at a distance could be very white, but I think that's still a stretch. You get a lot of atmosphere between you and the world. So with doing the underpainting, we're just building up tonal value, and this first session is mostly just loose and fast. I will probably do 1, if not 2 sessions on top of this. I tend not to do this with a lot of my paintings because it is so time consuming, and most of them don't require this much. Also, the pigments I use are pretty strong, so I'm not too worried about those things fading. But my favorite way to paint is to do a full underpainting. I just feel like it gives a stronger product and it gives more of a punch. Sure, there are people who would argue against that. Here I just layer in background, some woods, some clouds, trying to define key things that are going to play in later on, but also trying to really get the tones properly. Traditional painting, tone does the work, color gets the credit, so you want to put your work in on the tones because it'll make it easier to build on top of it. You could think of this as a varied primer, so that whatever color you put on top of it shows through with minimal application, although I'll probably go over that a few times too. So one element of this that you're not yet seeing, which I'm about to, I think, put in, is Mt Monadnock. Monadnock is a distant element in this painting. And when you see me make the classic mountain shape, it is going to be kind of a more extreme point than it really is. There you go. Monadnock's not quite that sharp, but I want to exaggerate the form just a little bit. For those of you who didn't know, apparently Monadnock is the most hiked mountain on Earth because it's just big enough to be really considered a mountain, and the slope of the mountain is pretty gradual, so it's easy for people who are even amateur hikers to pull it off. So in this background mountain, I'm trying to get the light source right. The light is technically like directly above my head to slightly behind me. And we have some clouds interrupting that. So I'm going in and I'm building in the structures of the mountain. And again, I'm not zooming in for a very specific reason. That'll become clear shortly. So you're going to get the general sense of the mountain and the light hitting the mountain. It's a fun shape for sure. That's the other thing with paintings is I feel like as long as you have a lot of depth and dynamic shapes, they can be fun even if they're simple. Um, yeah, that's a good time. I enjoy this because I can see it form in real time and I can see it start to become something. And although I don't usually make myself this vulnerable because I don't always know if these projects are going to work, because this could still fail, but I kind of don't think so. I also don't start in one corner of the canvas and do the whole thing at once. I'm filling in the left side because I want to see what the values look like. Uh, and, you know, we are talking about clouds and we're talking about sky, but to most people I think it looks really random. To most artists they can see it forming. You might be able to see it forming. I also, when I layer in black and gray like this, I sometimes find it acceptable to knock down the color like that. And that's just taking a rag and dampening down edges, softening things, lightening things a little bit, and just to see what I think about it. And then I'll go back in and I'll tweak it a little more. If you look at the center of the painting, right where I'm putting dark now, you can see the tip of the mountain. You can almost get a sense of the ridge, the spine of the mountain going up to the crest itself, or whatever the terminology is. Um, yeah. So I got this foreground element that's eventually going to be more complex, but I don't need a lot of it. I just need some basics. That's a tree in the foreground. To the lower left, there's knotwork, and there's also going to be a small family. And if you can't guess by now what's going on, there's a mountain in the background, and, well, there are 3 chickens. And your perspective, if you're starting to see this, is correct. These are chickens the size of dinosaurs. The one that I'm going to fill in on the right in just a second is Freedom. We call her Freedom the chicken. And the title of this painting is, I think, going to be Freedom and Friends Take Mt Monadnock. It's just something funny I had in my head, and I decided to play with it. So there is Freedom, and now you can see some of the real darks as I bring her into the foreground. And we're almost done with the rough underlayer of the piece. And there's session 1 in the books. Freedom and Friends Take Mt Monadnock. This is going to be a lot of fun when it's done. It's already fun. Thanks for looking.